sorry you caught me reading my book.
You're reading your book?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
what else are you going to do in the lockdown, you know?
I
You got to
know.
read.
Yeah, sure, sure. So what is it you're reading?
The Man Without Qualities by Robert Musil.
Oh, that's actually the book to read in the lockdown, right?
I mean, I'm proud. This is the only chance I would actually have to possibly finish it.
Yeah, yeah.
How's
Good.
it going?
Fine, fine. In London, everything is okay with you?
When Rainer came and spoke to me about the Monheim Triennale the first time, you know, it was just that really, encouraging collaboration. He's like, well, you don't have to, but I was like, yeah, of course I want to. You know, this is a dream come true to get people like that. Take it, Achim. And so even beyond the normal, like the basic weirdness of folk music, there was this added element, which is that a lot of those people were kind of recluses who were living alone in this little house in the woods, and so they're kind of out there themselves by then, you know. And that's a funny thing also, that people have I think sometimes people think of the old traditional folk music as being kind of scratchy and rough. And sort of that's true, but also that's often true because a lot of the people were older by the time the field recording people reached them. Mm-hmm. If you listen to the recordings from the 20s and 30s, those fiddle players have amazing intonation. They play really, super like tight technique. Mm-hmm. And it's more like the 60s where the guys are getting they haven't really played their instrument for 20 years until the guy with the tape recorder showed up. You know, they might be a bit rougher, but that's cool too. It's a vibe, and it's really beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I can see you.
I can hear you.
Hey, nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm hanging in there.
Like when we play together like this, we improvise. Obviously, we improvise, I would say open. I don't like the word free so much because maybe we can come to that later. But mm-hmm. where do the sounds come from? I mean, how do we make these decisions? What would you say? How do you pick the things you want to do?
It's a mix between a very fast reaction and your own imagination in a way. Like, I guess if you wanted to analyze it, there might be strategies, or there might be ways of like, okay, now I might be wanting to mimic your sound or blend your sound, and there might be other times where I'm deciding to add something that, to add another layer, or maybe have 2 or 3 different strings that I'm connecting while I'm still really listening to you. There might be times where I choose to ignore you. Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it is rough, we live close to a hospital, so we hear a lot of sirens, although we can also gauge by now that it's gotten better. Like, we literally have the sound of the sirens telling us that the numbers are getting lower in a way, but there's still a lot of people dying here, and it's rough. That is rough of course, the far worse part than us being locked up here.
You keep mentioning the term resistance. Music is a act of resistance. Could you just say something about this term you use?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, what we're doing and what I'm interested in is not mainstream. It doesn't belong in mainstream media or mainstream music or anything. And I think if you do this kind of music with all the sacrifices and shit you have to attach to it, and knowing that it's all about real communication, it turned into an act of politics, basically. And politics is, for me, resistance. It should be, at least. But we're living in a weird time at the moment where politics and moral and ethics is not as valid as it used to be. I mean, you look at Trump and you have the best example ever. It's okay to lie. I mean, what is that? Pricing and communication is that's a very human thing, and I love doing the research. And doing research, you have to be curious and you have to be open to new things and new people and new music, of course. Yeah, I mean, we repeat bits and pieces, and I think that's the beauty of the whole process, that you can pick whatever bits and pieces you want and you can put them together in a new way or in a different way. But it's dangerous when you start to put together things the way you did yesterday. Then you're pretty fucked in my ears. So it's a never-ending research, and I'm always curious what will happen next.
Yeah.
It does shock me, because for a band that essentially is very left wing in terms of its freedom, the resulting music is really is more orthodox than you would expect, considering the process. The process is very is a lot freer than the music sounds.
Yay. Very nice. It's kind of weird, is it, to play and there's no I could clap, but it wouldn't make a big difference.
I kind of love it. I love the awkwardness of it as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I
mean, I hope that I can do the same project that was envisaged for this year, just because that is literally my dream project. Writing a piece for all three of the groups combined. With written material from other musicians, classical musicians as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully that can happen, because it's.
And then it was quite a coincidence that an employee of Town Hall, who was formerly working in Moers, made the contact with Rainer Michalke, the head of the festival, because Mr. Michalke was in former times head of this festival in Moers. And so we got into contact and we've spoken a little bit. First of all, he was kind of like, he was waiting for some positive energy, because quite hard to convince Rainer Michalke, but when we've been to the local music school, it became quite easy, because he has got the feeling that it's not for marketing or business purposes that we want to have this festival, but that it's a real wish of the city.
It's like, where does the improvisation start and where does it end is kind of like dependent on who's paying attention.
Yeah, but still, I mean, improvising is kind of a method or a way to go into the music, right?
Yeah, definitely. To go into the music, to go into yourself also. More recently, I tend not to compose every single note, because I think a lot of magic happens when you don't know exactly what's going to happen next, and sometimes it's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I also, for me as a player, I always enjoy if like people let me decide a little bit on my own. When I look at your work, you're such a universal musician. Like you get your sources like from so many different parts in the musical world. That's really impressive. I mean, I see that not first time, but this is very unique, I think. Like I can hear some classical influences. Of course, I see the references, especially on your solo records with the two jazz tunes, all the things you are, and Evidence, you kind of really quoted to the jazz history, but there are so many more influences and more things that come as a source into your music, and like then still being free, that must be a big challenge too.
I don't know. For me, it feels natural. I think partly because I came from the jazz tradition and I love so many different kinds of music. I've played a lot of different kinds of music, and but my home, where I really feel free to be who I want to be in the music is through free improvisation and incorporating composition into that improvisation. So a lot of times that material that I come up with stems from other genres of music, and it feels very natural. There's a kind of a flow between free improvisation and incorporating other things. So for me, it's yeah, it's a natural process.
The switching between composing and improvising, that's very nice to hear in this and see in this example. There's no border. You're just going in and out all the time.
Yeah, there are sections, that last section we heard is an improvised form where there's specific, melodic fragments that are written out. Then there are fragments that are just rhythmically notated. And Ingrid has some of those, but she's directed to, it's really a solo section for her. So she can grab onto, she can ignore it, or she can grab onto little pieces of it. And, then it kind of brings it back to the original form and shows that it's, that it is a form and we are playing over a repetitive form.
I consider everything in a way as part of an artistic approach to things and thinking. So the curatorial work is also part of it. How could it be something else?
We try to find a narrative which is fitting for Monheim Triennale as much as for the artist. Some artists prefer to have exactly what they have already in mind with other projects, but still bring in several different projects and make a bigger narrative by that. And others are totally open for the idea of, okay, let's start blank here. Let's see who else is coming in. What can I do? What is this offering me? Because this is also for the artist such a rare thing. They have an open field pretty much, and they are wanted as somebody who can give so much. So let's try things out. We have time. Let's do it.
The festival itself, it's kind of a transcultural idea behind it. So the trans means it's including. It's not binary. It's not a classical or a pop music festival. It's not based on a simple 1 or 0 solution. It's really trying to find new ways and processing new ways and leaving us as curators the same freedom as than the artists. And this is something really special.
It was around 300 artists, right, Swante? We had on the long list, like everybody gave in input. And I remember this weekend, I made myself a list with YouTube links and SoundCloud links, and I listened to all 300 the whole weekend. I just spent on listening all this music, and I was amazed how, and I listened to a lot of music, and I know stuff, but there was so much I didn't know, and all that was also coming in and bringing in the texture for that festival. And then filtering out the artists, you say, okay, these are our 16 artists we go deeper with, like it's fascinating because they all work with stuff like that, and you could have done 5 more festivals, but I think that this mix will bring up something magic when they come together in that week.
I really like that this is something which is in between, and it's also possible to find new ways of presenting music, to create music in the places where they happen and not just bring the product. It's like the idea of a more human-based festival and not product-based.
I mean, one of the axioms for our work was that we are looking for artists we believe are there for the years to come, who have like a long-term perspective. So on one side, we wanted people who have a clear defined art space already for themselves, but we're also looking for people who are curious. And I feel with everybody on that list, there's this curiosity, what's happening behind that wall, what's happening around that corner.
We are not only inventing this festival, but we are also discovering it in a way. So there's something where we don't know, and we have to look at it. Oh, it's like this. Okay, I didn't know. So that's an interesting aspect too.
We are also curious.
Oh, we're very.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if you know each other very well, like we do, it's much more easy, and it's going much more in the details, and you can anticipate a lot because you know each other so well. So sometimes I kind of feel what he's thinking and what he's going to do the next.
Well, what we like to tell people when they ask this question is it's just music, and to divide it into different styles is the job of the music scientists. not our job. We enjoy if it's open.
Actually, improvising is composing in real time, and I'm interested to explore the between of it.
You have to be very. You have to put your ego aside as a composer. You compose something and you have like a perfect thing in mind, and then you put it out there and it's completely going somewhere else, and it has to be okay for you.
I read in an interview that you prepare the improvisation in a way practicing your inner hearing, like imagining music. And this I thought was very impressive, like the picture, sitting down and imagining music, which then just comes out while improvising freely. That's an enormous, like, I don't know, picture to me.
I think it's something that you should be able to do if you're going to play freely, and it sort of prepares your whole physical body into sort of becoming a format of expressivity, if you know what I mean. So I sort of see music as a pool of musical entities which I can only manage. I can't really decide what goes into that pool, but I can manage those musical entities. And if I start managing them, it doesn't really matter if I have the instrument or not. I should be able to sort of bring that sort of physical response out there anyway.
I just wanted to create sounds that produce a texture kind of thing, that this texture works quite well with the delays between the different devices, rather than if I had like more discrete signals that would just create an echo. But when you have this kind of texture with the keys, for example, or with multiplied versions of rattling of the violin and so on, and also with the glass sounds, then it produces a texture that that will fill the gaps, the time gaps between the different streams quite well, and that's the reason.
In some of your work, I remember the album from 2011, Politics of Frequencies. You were using sonification, meaning that you transform data, not musical data, into sound. Is that also something that resolves in a certain sound quality that you don't get on another way?
Well, not on a sound quality necessarily, more in terms of the form or the structure, I would say, of the music. Because first, when you think about a sonification, you have to come up with some kind of idea what a good mapping for a sound is. So does it make sense to translate, say, one stream of data into a specific parameter of a musical element, and then find a kind of a time base that makes sense for it? And the surprising element or the surprising aspect of insonification is more regarding the form, because then you all of a sudden discover things that are non-human controlled or not, driven by an aspect of a decision of a musician or of a composer.
My attention as I'm singing can still really be on trying to be in relation with as many things as possible, whether that's like my husband who's sitting here next to me, like making these beautiful sounds, or it's like you in Germany, the neighbor of this country where the songs come from, like with your amazing improvisation skills and warmth and bringing this to the music. So I guess it's sort of like saying yes to whatever configuration you find yourself inside of. And I think part of our work is to see how it is the song wants to be. And so it's like all of a sudden, almost to give agency to the song and say, how do you want to go, song? Not so much like I decide this would be cool or I want to do this, but it's, yeah, almost like a conjuring of the song in some way.
Yeah.
It's so nice to play with you, Achim.
Same here, Julia. Thank you.
It's so beautiful. Yeah.
That was actually my hope, that people would be so intrigued by all of John Coltrane's songs and Alice Coltrane's songs that they didn't know it would bring them closer to jazz. And the idea behind putting all the guests, like maybe you heard Jazz Mia, so maybe now you discover Jazz Mia's music, or to each jazz legend, you would discover more about jazz because you would start to like Spotify their music or Google them and try to figure out where can you hear more of them. The greatest, tribute you can pay to somebody is to bring people closer to their work and to pay true honor. The only way I can pay honor to somebody is by being myself. If I can't pay tribute to you by trying to be you. I mean, they say, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but I think creatively to offer a present to a master is what we all are striving to do, Definitely have the festival next year. It's going to be the biggest party of all the festivals in Europe because it's going down in 2021. If this goes on,